He's Blake. I'm Ronnie. All the good names are taken. Podcast and Blake, we're back, and we're going to talk about one of our favorite horror movies of all time, a movie that's probably not talked about enough on this platform, the 1978 classic, John Carpenter's Halloween.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one, Ronnie. One of the best horror movies of all time. Your classic silent killer wearing a mask, chases a girl. We don't know why he's doing it. Just a really, really good story.
One thing I like about this movie, besides the backstory of it being the most profitable or the highest grossing independent horror movie ever, is the simplicity in the story, Blake, in which you have a killer with no motive terrorizing babysitters on Halloween and Halloween night. It's just something about it. It's a movie that when I cut the lights off and watch it, it creeps me out every single time.
And the fact that he follows her all day. I mean, this movie starts off following her in the daytime, and then it creeps over into nighttime, and then, he makes his move. So it's just the creepiness just builds and builds and builds until we get the final showdown.
Do you think we've brought it up from time to time. Do you think in the original title, in case you didn't know, Blake, was going to be the Babysitter Murders, and they changed it there at the end of Halloween? And could this movie has been as successful and long lasting if it had been called the Babysitter Murders? Excuse me.
I think if you go that direction, then it could be a different babysitter every movie. I mean, you see what I'm saying? It doesn't, and it also can take place different times of the year. So
that is true. He could just get out anytime and just go after babysitters, so you're not opening yourself up to one time a year. I like that idea.
Right.
Of course, everybody loves Dr. Loomis, he's got all the chewing of the scenery, Jack Nicholson style, where he gives the big creepy dialogues about how he first met this child when the child was 6 years old. And after 15 years, he realized that this was just pure evil waiting to break out, staring at a wall all day, just picturing in his mind what he's going to do when he gets the opportunity to break out. And he's giving these horror stories to Sheriff Brackett, who is also the father of one of the main characters, Annie, in this movie. And Brackett's main thing is, hey, we got to notify the radio and television and let them know this wacko's out there. And Loomis is like, no, you can't do that. Do that, it'll be paranoia. They'll see him behind every street corner. You'll have panic on your hands. And I just think that was a mistake. I think Loomis everybody thinks he's so smart, Blake, but I think he spent the entirety of the movie making mistakes. He stayed at the Myers house for the entire movie. He tells him not to notify any kind of TV or radio, and that allows Myers to just wreak havoc all night long.
Yeah, I mean, there's an argument that, even though he knew the most about Myers, he truly didn't know what he was up against. The level, anyway. He knew Michael was evil, but he just didn't realize what he was up against. But yeah, you're right. I think Loomis really fumbled here. I tell you what really added to the movie, Ronnie. You talk about the tone and the creepiness and the mask. It's got to be the score.
Yes.
It's got to be one of the most important parts of this movie. The
music is iconic. The score was done by John Carpenter. Halloween themes, the shape stalks, all of that. Without that, I'm not sure this movie is as scary as it is in its final stages, but the music is some of the creepier music in horror movie history.
Yeah, that's really all I got. What else you got to say?
Well, let's talk about a few of these characters. You got Laurie Strode, who's the main character of the movie. She's the one that's constantly getting stalked by Michael throughout. She looks outside. Her father is a realtor, and she has to drop the keys off at the Myers house. Now, this movie starts off with a girl getting killed, and we later find out, because we follow the killer out the front door, and is unmasked to be a 6-year-old boy that's her brother, Michael Myers. So when he breaks out 15 years later, he immediately goes back to the Myers house where he lived, and she's dropping off the keys for her father, who's a realtor. So Michael runs into her first, and he spends the rest of the day stalking her. She looks outside of her classroom from school, and she sees him. She's walking down the sidewalk, and she sees him. She's in her bedroom, and he's looking up at her window, and she sees him there. And it's to the point where she doesn't know if she's imagining these things or if he's really there. And he, one by one, takes out her friends and she's left to try to survive at the end of the movie. She is probably one of the original final girls, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, she is. Are we supposed to believe that he's following her because she looks like his sister that he killed in the beginning, or do you think that it doesn't have anything to do with it?
You know, they went a little bit with that with the Rob Zombie, where he smells the letter and you know it smells like he remembers his sister smelling. I don't know if it's a situation where he thinks she looks like Judith Myers, or if it's like what the teacher was saying in the classroom, and it's really just fate that she was the first person he ran into, and for the rest of the day he's going to be stalking her. It's a good question. I really don't know the answer to. What do you think about Loomis?
You know, I'm not a fan. Um, I mean, the character is important, but like you said, I mean, the decisions he makes in this movie and throughout the franchise just really questionable. And I don't know if there's really any redeeming qualities about him, Ronnie. Especially when we get. I know we're talking about the original, but when we talk about the sequel, he left Laurie in that house. I mean, he abandoned her or whatever, and I mean, he does apologize for it later, but a lot of missteps by Loomis in this franchise.
Not a lot of blood in this movie, Blake, but some very creative kills. I mean, you got Annie getting her throat slit in the car. And a lot of breathing. You hear Michael breathing under the mask as he first person stalks the characters. Bob is stabbed through the chest into the wall. Linda's strangled to death. We don't know how the mechanic, when he gets his coveralls, is killed.
Heart attack.
And Lori at the end, she puts him through the ringer with a knitting needle to the neck. She stabs him in the chest, and he's still alive. And then Loomis breaks in at the very end and is able to shoot him 6 times, and he falls over the balcony, and we get the scene where it's like, what does she say? Was that the boogeyman?
She said, that's the boogeyman.
And Loomis is like, it was. Then they go over and look, and Michael's gone, and you realize, hey, this guy is something more than just a human if he survived all that. And then you're left with the biggest what if ending. What the hell's going on? So that's 1978's Halloween, Blake.
Yeah, those closing shots of hearing him breathe and showing us, where he was at pivotal parts in the movie. I thought that was a really creepy way to end the movie, and I don't know if it's been done since. But yeah, really good movie. It's got the rewatchability factor, and if you're a horror fan, it's got to be in your top 10, right?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. John Carpenter, he's brilliant. This movie's brilliant. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go out and see it. It's just top notch. That's Halloween. So we hope you guys have enjoyed the review, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, comment down below your favorite scene in the movie.